I would like to talk with you about the day itself, 9/11, 2001,
Yeah.
but also what it means today in the world, in Europe, in the United States. And because of our students of today who know nothing about 9/11, basically, I would like to philosophize with you about what will be the future like. In the case that we do talk about 9/11 as it is, or that we just hope that it will just go away. And to your opinion, do you think that everything is what is going on now in the world, is that what you could say is coming because of 9/11 and everything that happened after that, the wars in Asia and in the Middle East, the refugee crisis in Europe and the budget crisis?
I think the 9/11 is a great pretext to bring about war in all different parts of the world, especially the Near East, where a lot of the oil and the gas is situated, or in the Ukraine, for example. We have this lonely superpower which feels it's right to occupy everything which is worthwhile on the earth, and to struggle about this with China and with Russia. I think the war against terror is one of the pretexts to do this, and the clash of civilization is coloring behind this, and you have a lot of false flag terror events after 9/11. 9/11 was a huge false flag event, but all the others, Madrid, Bali, lots of others, even Charlie Hebdo was probably a false flag operation.
Brussels and Munich?
Munich, I don't know. They are still researching. I found out that now they have found a dark internet, as if the CIA don't manage even the dark internet, besides the normal internet. So there something might come out, but I think always it's absolutely necessary to look for false flag, because normally, for example, all these suicide terrorist acts are very nicely for people making a strategy for this and the tactics, because the criminal police is not sees no necessary to clear the thing up, and it's absolutely necessary to do that. So we have a continuous approach again to war. Hillary Clinton has no objection against any of these wars in the last decade, and so I think it's dominating our situation.
If you look at the refugee crisis, especially Germany is now overflown with something like 1 million refugees. To my opinion, people are, especially politicians, are talking about a refugee crisis. But they don't talk about the reason that people are fleeing from countries.
We are in an alliance in NATO. And a normal alliance would function that the different governments would talk to the biggest government of the United States. What are you doing? How do you doing things? Why don't you clear 9/11 so that we can believe that all these wars are necessary? The war against Afghanistan, the war against Libya, against Syria, and so on and so on. And the refugee crisis it's a following of the chaos which the Americans are organizing in the Near East. I don't know whether it's meant to destabilize whole Europe. Our Chancellor is telling everybody, you are welcome here in Germany. Nobody is allowed to do this kind of proclamation, because nobody was asked before. There was no elections about this. It was no topic with the German government. It was no topic with the German parties. It was no topic with the German mayors. It was no topic with the European governments. It's totally out of the normal political world. It's perhaps the thinking of Mr. Soros, which owns huge amounts of billions of money and makes a lot of inside dealings. He is in favor of this refugee movement, which changed everything in Europe. Perhaps Europe is going into chaos. Nobody knows how it's handled. Now the German government made a U-turn because the states of the Balkan decided to close the doors. But nobody knows where this will lead, and we have everywhere a very huge amount of discontent. But this is true also in the United States, where you have on the Trump side, on the Sanders side, you have both huge amount of opposition against this policy, which is more or less directed by this 0.1% of the richest people on the world.
In my surroundings at the university, people are saying, oh, 9/11 is already 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So why should we bring it up again? What would you say to academics if they say this?
Well, it's always necessary to find out what is really true, because you are living in a narrative, as everybody tells us now. Everybody is very much funded, or no, it's based on the knowledge about 9/11, that something very unexpected has happened, and very horrifying happened, and these things can come again, and they come always out of this Muslim world. So we have to look what these 19 people were they in the planes? Did they steer? Were they able to capture the planes? Were they able to fly the planes, and so on and so on? And then whether it was a controlled demolition prepared months before and hiding before the public, or the total false flag, perfect made operation.
Yeah, because you are one of the first politicians after 2001 who came already with a book on 9/11, when people were still in shock about what they saw and they couldn't believe it. What made it special that you knew that this was a false flag operation?
I was in the States for some time because I had to find out what happened with East Germany, and computer dealings and so on, high-tech operations. And I finally found out that on the European level you can find out what happened with East Germany. So I went over, and in the United States I found not only that the American Congress was willing at the end of the Vietnam War to find out what the CIA was really doing. There's lots of covert operations. They're using the worldwide drug traffic to finance their operations and to hide them for the public and for the accountant general and so on and so on. And this was very made public in hearings. And I read these hearings, found out Church Committee, Pike Committee, and so on and so on. And so I knew quite a lot of the tactics, how they made false flag operations. I was still already thinking about what happened to really Pearl Harbor. Was it really a strike out of the blue? It was not a strike out of the blue. The president knew perfect before what will happen, and he let this 3,000 youngsters, soldiers, American soldiers, die in order to get the public opinion in favor of intervening in the world, in the World War II. So I had this knowledge, and then I found out this is lots of things are extremely strange with these 19 youngsters, Muslim youngsters, which went into the planes and so on and so on. So I started immediately to have this second thought thinking.
Is that something you did by yourself? Or
just myself, yeah.
Because I can imagine that you had some contacts in the United States or in Germany.
No. It's what no. They would all say you are crazy. You are crazy. Your job's absolutely crazy.
Yeah. And
lots of people are doubting about this, and you could even if with my wife I have always quarreling. You believe this and you believe that and you think about that, and so it's out of the narrative for the normal Zeitungleser, the
newspaper
reader of a newspaper or radio report or TV station.
And 15 years afterwards, you would think that after you've written a book about it, many people have written books about it, there are documentaries on it. If you look at them and you have a clear mind, you just have to come to one conclusion, that there is at least a lot of doubts and a lot of questions unanswered. But if you look at the mainstream, nobody seems to care.
No, they are ridiculing everybody who is doubting about the events of 9/11. He is a nut, he is a conspiracy theorist. All what the CIA invented this proverb of conspiracy theorists because too many Americans doubted about the real background of the murder of Kennedy. Said there must be something else behind this and so on, and they are right. But in order to fight this going on thinking and perhaps even getting the majority in the American public, they found out how to fight this and to make it ridiculous and about thinking that what the government is telling you is not the truth. And so they said, well, the best thing to do is say to them, conspiracy theorists.
So the basic problem for getting everything out in the open, to get to the truth, is not a question of new facts, because all the facts are there.
Yeah.
So it is more a psychological problem.
Yeah, sure.
And how could we solve that problem? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, I have written a book about propaganda. I think it was a nephew of Sigmund Freud who has written it in 1924. And he said, well, we as simple human beings are not able to construct the picture of the world in which we have to think, the structures in which we have to put the elements of what is happening in. Therefore, we need somebody who is telling us. Mm-hmm. We need specialists to do this, who know about our anxiousness, who know about our beliefs, and so on and so on, and they are manipulating us. And this is the background for PR in the business world, for example, medicines and pharma industry and so on and so on. They're telling you should stop eating fat, you should stop eating butter, you should this and this and this, and take this and this and this, and so on. And if you can concentrate on reading a book, then they take a pill to do this, and that they give this to the youngsters, and so on and so on and so on. So you must have a perspective how to regulate your thinking, and this is happening also in the world of politics, and in normal thinking, we would say democracy doesn't work if you don't tell the truth. But this is no longer the case, especially if you have a superpower which is longing for the treasures of the world, which Brzezinski is telling the American elite. You have fought the Cold War. You have defeated Hitler, and now you are allowed to catch the treasures of the world, and therefore, but within a democracy, you need a rectification for that. And therefore, these false flag operations falls in, where people say, well, we have to go after Saddam Hussein, he's a horrible guy, he's bombing from morning to evening his own population in order to get popularity, and so on and so on. Nobody should believe this, but finally you see the victims and so on, the crying people, the crying babies, destroyed babies, and so on and so on. And finally, they always succeed to bring about the lies. And Churchill said, a war in war, truth is so precious that you have a bodyguard of lies to protect it, protect the truth.
In my book, I have written also a chapter on the cui bono.
Yeah.
Who is benefiting from this. I think this is always a very important thing.
Money and cui bono.
Yeah. To your opinion, who has benefited the most from the 9/11 attacks? Because there are many victims, we know that, but who are the people who...
I think the military-industrial complex. And because, you know, this... The United States are not fighting the war with body on the ground. They have always to look for people which are fighting for them. Now in Syria there are cutthroats out of, I think, 88 states. But they bomb from the air, always. This is morally not as depressing as you have to fight on the ground. You let your bomb drop, or you can steer your drones from far away, and the drones are veering out. The airplanes are getting lost, and so on and so on. And the ammunition industry is totally out of capacity. They don't have any more capacity for all these bombs they are throwing on these people, and they do it at least normally 15 years or 12 years, 15 years. There is no end of war, but it's always giving order to the military-industrial complex, and the other side is also. Normally to fight for natural resources, to get gas, to get oil. Think on the gas pipeline, which should go from Qatar to Turkey, and from Turkey to Western Europe, in order to cut out the possibility to get the gas from the Soviet Union or Russia now. So there are very far-reaching ideas behind all this, and the think tanks with their clever guys are talking all day and night about these things.
Because the agendas are already very old. I mean,
the agendas are very old, and within the think tanks they have so much money they can take in all the know-how they get in the world. They know perfectly who is fighting with whom in what province in Kyrgyzstan or wherever, and they can raise unrest there, and so on and so on, and how to do it, and with whom to play, and the rich people which own this huge amount of Vermögen, treasure, or so and so on and so on. They are asking always this guy, make us happy and keep our money together in order that we can give it to our children and the next children to the next generation. So these huge amount of monies are looking for think tanks to find out what to do, and to enlarge even now the the income.
And in the case of 9/11, you are talking about the PNAC document for the new American century.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
If it is so simple, as you say, how is it possible that nobody wants to see it or can see it, nor in politics, nor in companies, nor in people, ordinary people in the street? We don't see it. We don't think it is so easy.
Because the publishing industry is totally in the hand, in the ownership of this huge was heißt der Einkommen? This is huge.
The 1%.
Hmm?
The 1%.
The 0.1%.
0.1. But that is true. But still, academia and universities think that they are thinking independently. Do you agree with that? Because there are a lot of young people studying, and they.
I think in the United States there is a lot of people thinking differently, but they don't get the money from the big foundations.
Mm-hmm. But how is that in Germany, for instance? Young people know about these problems?
Sometimes they know, sometimes they do not. I think the professors of political science, they go on the trip of conspiracy theorists if they are sympathizing with thinking differently. But in order to find out what is really true, what is the main reason for science, they are there's treason on that.
Mm-hmm. We last year we had the Richard Gage in Delft. There was this huge auditorium with 1,000 people. 700 students were there. And I anticipated that some university professor, I mean we are all technical engineers, so we had high-rise buildings, steel structures, concrete, airplanes. No professor was willing to come and defend, just to say, Mr. Gage, you are a nice man, but what you're saying is not true. And because it happened like this, they don't dare that.
Also, as engineers, they should know how to construct high buildings. If these high buildings which were constructed against the impact of an on-flying aircraft were built in protection against this. So the solution of this must be a total different setup of structures in order to cope with this kind of situation. They must be very much interested, but they don't want to discuss this.
So that's more or less a psychological problem. Huh? So they should be able to understand how the physics works, but they don't want to address the problem.
It's cowardice.
Yeah.
It's really they are cowards.
Yeah. But if you look at some of the arguments they say is, well, you need so much explosives that you cannot blow up a 400-meter building like this. So you need too much explosives. Have you ever considered that?
I don't know how heavy these explosives like termite are, and what part. Well, I don't know. I don't know. It must be an operation of months, I think.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever considered how this could have been done, or who could have been responsible?
No. I just know that for lots of weekends the electricity was cut in these towers, so that the security elements didn't work, and so on and so on. So everybody had a free access, which had the key into the tower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, of course, it's a very technical question. And
sure, it's a technical question, and you must transport this huge amount and just in time for the people working there, and they can work the whole week. They can work at the weekend, and they must have access for months to do that.
Then you come at a very nasty topic. When we did in Delft a summer project in 2006, that was my responsibility. We had 2 student teams working on trying to understand what happened in New York, especially with the Twin Towers. Of course, they were in 2006. They were not able to come with a smoking gun.
Yeah.
But in the news media in Holland, TU Delft was accused of doing anti-Semitic research, and that was new to me. I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
But it triggers you to say that is one of the fears that people have is that when they are critical on 9/11. They immediately get implied with the connection of the United States and Israel, and then that you probably are an anti-Semitic.
Yeah, you are dealing with the behavior of the Israeli government, and you are not an anti-Semitic. Anti-Semitic is anyhow. Semitic is a language, and all these Near East languages are Semitic. So anti-Semitic is in itself stupid, but I'm always against refusing to discuss the policy of Israel critically just because you are threatened by the thinking that is anti-Semitic, and it's not anti-Semitic. It's about truth.
That's true. But they think that because of the problems of getting the explosive in a month, that there should have been cooperation from Larry Silverstein, who was the owner of the building, who has a double passport, and so they.
But they are organized this way, and therefore the criminal detection of the whole system should include Larry Silverstein. And should include all the companies which knew before that 9/11 would happen or probably happen. I don't know what the density of the knowledge is. And then you have to ask at what airports did these 19 people manage to get into planes, and who was responsible for security. And if there's an Israeli company, well, you have to ask the Israeli company. Is it a Dutch company? You have to ask the Dutch company or a German company or so on.
Yeah, I agree. But then
it's very meticulous, and you are stone on stone on stone on stone. And if you are anxious that there is a connection of false flag operation behind this, you are fighting it from the wall. As anti-Semitic, as conspiracy theorists, or whatever.
And because, of course, there is, even if people think that there is something dodgy about 9/11, they think that in the worst case, the United States are complicit. And in the least worst case, they knew about it, but let it happen. Have you come to a conclusion on that yourself? Or
no, I think let it happen was no, I don't believe it. It's so much complicity within the happening of 9/11. For example, getting on Earth, the whole structure of against attacking planes. Or attacking missiles and so on. In 2 hours there was nothing about this. And this was a totally American construction. And that the travel agents on the ground, they were so furious about what happened. They came together during the day, and they spoke to each other, and they discussed this, what happened, totally impossible. 65 or 69 times we were able to get the plane in a correct way, to control the pilot, to control the traffic between the plane and the ground. And these traffic controllers were so upset, and they had a reporting system. They report this on tapes, And then somebody came and took the tapes out of the machine and cut it in very, very small items and throw it in different. Who is doing this? And this was totally American, totally federal government, nobody else. Yeah. And so you find a lot of things, but you can say the American government was a total victim. It's absolutely not true. It must be an active role within this. Whether they had help on this is another question.
I also read an article about the amount of foreign secret services, also from Germany, who alerted the United States government, the CIAs, the FBIs, that attacks were going to happen. And in the end, after 9/11, the Americans said, well, it was a complete surprise. And it was not only from the German, but even the Taliban warned to the United States that there was going to be an attack. I mean, this is insane, of course.
Yeah, but the same happened to the FBI. The FBI, one FBI guy on the West Coast rented a room to two of these hijackers, and he knew perfectly. And there were Mrs. Rowland, which worked for the FBI on a regional bureau, and she said we have to do something about these guys. They are roaming around and they are threatening us, and are we allowed to do this research? And the upper echelon said no, you are not allowed to do this. So part of these people which warned before were thrown out of their jobs. And all the people which misbehaved, if the official story is right, didn't know anything, killed very early the arguments of the lower level. We have to do something about that. They were promoted. So there is a strong force behind this in order to bring this about, to bring this new American century via a new Pearl Harbor.
Coming to the future, I believe you have children and maybe even grandchildren at this moment. Is
11.
11. Is granddad Andreas able to explain to his grandchildren what has happened in the United States and how that still affects their lives?
Sure, if they are interested in.
Are they?
I tell them, and well, from time to time they ask questions, and then well, it's a question of you would like to threaten people, young people with the surrounding. I still hope that we can bring the lonely superpower in a situation where they say, well, this was done, and we start from fresh on, from new on, and bring about what we believed after 1945, that this was a democracy, and we have really to learn from them. If you look at the founding fathers, what they reflected about the dangers for democracy of economics, of financial influences, and so on wars and war power in the hand of the government, and so on. So they were very reflective of this, and the American political system went totally away of this. The American system is no democracy; it's a plutocracy, and if it's possible, perhaps somehow and sometimes the American people will be able to take again the power of the democracy back to the people and not to this 0.1%.
But if you look at the situation in the world, the United States is trying to inflict a war with Russia.
Yeah, sure.
They are active against the Chinese in the South China Sea.
Sure.
We are talking still about the Middle East.
Yeah.
Where should this counter force come from if even the European states are so much in bed with the United States that
they are the loudspeakers of the United States, more or less, and I think the American political system doesn't need any longer Europe as a strong Europe. So there's one danger which they found out already in 1900, McKinder, that the greatest danger for the United States is the working together of Europe with Russia until, or even with China together, the whole continent, and then they say this is the end of the sea powers. Therefore, Brzezinski and all these guys are talking about this. We have to stop Europe going together with Russia. This is the background of the Ukraine. Everything is a lie. And yeah, the question is whether we will. The Americans have to pay for that because they are depending that the dollar is keeping its role as a world currency. Therefore, the euro has to be put down. The British pound is already not as strong as longer. The European community should be weakened. I think it's fair with them. It's okay with them. They don't need a strong Europe. Out of the perspective of these might elites, these plutocrats, you have to fight now in order to keep China down, to keep Russia down. NATO was built in order to keep Russia out, United States in, and Germany down. Therefore, this kind of thinking is going on now with all these others, and they have the feeling that we as Americans, we are getting weaker, and therefore now we are strong enough in order to take up this fight. And this is extremely dangerous going perhaps leading to a nuclear war. Because the Americans on the ground are not very strong. They lost all the wars. They are strong in the air. And if they lose on the ground, and from the Soviet or from the Russian point of view, Putin point of view, they said, if I don't fight now, I fight them now, later I'm getting weaker and weaker on his side. So it's a very, very at the crosshair situation.
Is that a situation that, to your opinion, the true leaders of Europe, let's say Angela Merkel, maybe in France, maybe in the UK, do they really understand that this is going on?
I don't know what Merkel believes. She was probably advised that going to war with Iraq was based on a big lie, saying that Iraq has connection with Al-Qaeda, or then later telling the story about the means of mass destruction. I think the BND told the truth about this, and she knew, but she went with Americans. They said, Schröder was at this time chancellor, and they said, Afghanistan, I have to do because this wild going super might to fight as Germany is very difficult and very dangerous. But Iraq, I don't see any reason to go with the United States. And she said at this time, as an opposition leader, we should go with Iraq. So you have a pattern there. That it doesn't matter what the knowledge of the German government is, or what the reason is, and what the justification is. We go together with the United States, and now I think, and she talks even in Russian with Putin for 3 hours, and then she is blaming him in the public and so on. So I'm very unhappy about her, and she is an instrument of the Americans.
In relation to the latest developments in Turkey, the coup that went wrong, and now the fact that Erdogan is now talking to the Russians.
I think now, I don't know how long he is doing that. He has a very complicated situation because if the Kurds are succeeding, who got the permission from the Entente in 1914 that you get a huge empire for your own, and they were betrayed, and now they have the idea around Mosul and the oil in Mosul. We can probably get a kernel of a new state. And Russia and Turkey would like to undermine this and cut this out, but the United States have probably promised, like these people of the American century, new American century, that there will be 3 parts of Syria, 3 parts of Iraq in different statelets, which are totally dependent. And one of the states is a Kurdish state on the south of Iraq.
But while he is still playing a very dangerous game, he's part of NATO.
Sure, well, he is behind ISIS, and together with the Americans are saying we are always arming the reasonable ISIS people or the reasonable opposition to Assad, and then immediately these guys, when they got their weapons and they got the instructions, they go over to the hardline ISIS people and so on. So it's a very doubtful game what the Americans are doing there.
And coming back to 9/11, one of the things that young people have is, and what is also used often as an excuse, that for such a large operation as 9/11, you need so much people to not talk that you cannot keep it secret. And you have experience with secret services?
No, not too much. I got some experience with these people, but not with covert operations. And covert operations is very strongly organized on the need-to-know principle, and there's then the public the publications, the media has to show out immediately what the narrative should be, and then you fit in all this. And as in the case of 9/11, all people which prognosticized what's going on and observed in the United States, these 19 people, the air control, not the air control, the pilot training schools and so on. All this was happening, and you find a people, a guy in I think the consulate in Jeddah, who gave the visa to all these. So he's not 19 now, but 16 or 14 of these guys, and he was crazy about this because they didn't care. The question was, well, from what are you living? And they wrote down theater, and where will you live? Then in California, and so on, so on. But a normal officer would never give the visa for these kind of people. And he went to the consul and said, well, we are operating against our regulations. And he said, you underwrite this, and they get their visa, and they got multiple visa. They could go out and in and out of the United States and over the United States all the time, like diplomats. It's so crazy, and he was thrown out of he told his story. He was thrown out, told his story, but who is reading this? If the mainstream media isn't taking up the job for the 90% of the population, and leaving these small publications for only 5 or 3% of the public, it's not getting through.
No, that's true. So
the narrative is so strong and it's daily hammered in the mind of the people that some doubts are just thrown out.
Yeah, it's as easy as that. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do so few politicians now dare to say the truth about 9/11?
Because not only not publisher, the
press.
No, the press. If a press agent is going the way of the conspiracy theory and trying to prove it or disprove it, then he's a conspiracy theorist. It's the end of his career, and the same is true of a politician. Most politicians. I don't know how. CIA is very strong. They're very clever guys. I talked to them at least I believe that I talked to them, and they asked me questions, and in order to find out what kind of guy I am, and so on and so on. So I think they have a lot of influential people which are promoting careers or dispromoting careers. For example, I have a guy who said, well, we have now a fantastic new member of parliament, Andreas von Bülow. He knows about the United States and so on and so on. Is much better than the older generation and so on and so on. And probably he gave some hints to put him into the Department of Defense and so on until they found out that I became critical about NATO and their perspective. I think there's, in France and everywhere, there are influential people who are giving advice whom to promote and whom not to promote, and make bad noises about the guy and so on and so on.
Yeah.
But I was never a chancellor, so I don't know how it really happened. But I think there are people who are saying, well, for example, before I became parliamentarian secretary of the defense ministry, one night Helmut Schmidt came to me and he said, well, I want that you go up to the defense ministry, which is on the hills here in Bonn. And I said, no, Bülows were so often related to military, in the Prussian military. I don't want it to have anything to do with it. You go up there and you do your job and finally you come down. But don't tell the minister that I want you. The next evening, the minister came to me. Please don't tell Helmut Schmidt. I want to make you Secretary of Defense, not Secretary of Defense, second man in the Defense Ministry. So I believe that somebody must make points. This guy would be the right choice. But it's not. This is nicht belastbar. It's not.
You cannot prove it.
Yeah, you cannot prove it. You can't anything prove with it. But there's a doubt.
And we especially together with the conference in Utrecht, and I think that goes for all over the world, people want to think about, okay, we know all this, and we know the systems, and we know that there is much more an idea to keep everything shut than in the open. So what is now the best way to go forward? What should we do as a community, as people in the street? Scientists, politicians, how can we go on? Because we still live in this post 9/11 world where a lot of things are not okay.
Yeah. Well, we keep. I think we have to keep up track of all the terror acts which are happening. For example, these Brussels people which came to Paris, suicide bombers, they had this, I don't know, these are cutthroats, these are depressive people. They never believe in Muhammad, in the Muslim religion. They don't go to the mosque. One of the guys, his wife told the public what kind of guy she is married, and that he is hanging around the whole day and night at home, and then he is drinking, and then one could imagine that if somebody is coming and say, well, you get 500,000 or 100,000 or 10,000 or even 1,000. If you go to Paris and we give you a safe vest, not a suicide vest, a safe vest, and he believes this, he is stupid enough, and all these guys you are transporting. And then you find always a strong commandship like of operations, especially in Paris in the theater. There somebody came with his Mercedes and he put his mitrailleuse on top of this, and they shoot and shoot and shoot. Nobody answered to this, but this was a total different equipe. Therefore, I believe that in order to raise hell, you need all these suicide bombers, and then you have this special cruel people shooting around. And I don't know why the German football equipe was forewarned.
Oh,
they knew and so the same is true of Charlie Hebdo with this guy, I think 10 French policemen shoot at a man running through the fire, probably already handcuffed, and destroy the whole evidence, and so look at. I have a list of these kind of terror attacks where always false flag is looking around. But they're very strongly, and you have always people looking for that, and therefore we have to transport a feeling that all these terror acts after 9/11 are organized in order to keep up this terrorized feelings in the population, in order that you can, through the civil liberties, and you can lead the wars you are willing to lead.
Yeah, but how do we break?
And terror is a method. It's not an enemy.
No.
It's in itself. It's stupid.
But how do you break this vicious circle? Is that awareness? Is that?
Yeah, sure, it's awareness, but if you don't have the publicity for this, you don't go through. Schröder and I think Kohl, they both told sometimes, we govern Germany by Bild-Zeitung and TV. Or these both. And if you have the right people at the right place, then you can keep this 60%, which have no doubts, which are looking each evening at the TV, the news. You have them on the right track, and all the others you couldn't care.
But then let me phrase it another way. Are you an optimistic man?
No.
No.
Not any longer, because I think I'm in favor of Trump. He's a horrible guy, but he isn't show up. He might be able to throw up the American system. I believe strongly that the American structure will not allow him to go his way. But he is against this huge amount of placement of American bases. He is what I think we should a little bit think about this globalization, because I doubt, it is already 20 years ago, I doubt very much whether it's wise to take the taxpayers' money into the engineer schools in Europe, in America, and if the patents are going out, then you let the rich people take these patents and bring them to the Chinese and have this kind of loan and then transport the material here. This is a lowering over perhaps a century or more of a century of the income of our populations. In order to make these people richer as they are already. So this he is discussing. Then he said, I don't believe the CIA. Is for me all right. He is not believing in 9/11. And he said we have somehow to control the national banks. And the National Bank in the United States is a self-service organization for the big banks. And it's so horrible what he's all the other things are so horrible that you are very doubtful whether one should speak out. But I do it because I think with such a throw up man, perhaps America will not succeed, but Europe must define itself for a new way. It's impossible that we, with 28 or 20, now with Brexit 27 nations, are believing it's a busload of leaders which is always following the Americans with some bad mouthing in the rear.
We're almost a colony.
Yeah?
We're almost a colony.
Yeah, sure, it's a colony. Yeah. Yeah, but we were before in the English colony, because the British always thought we can always handle the continent if we go always against the strongest men on the continent. No confidence in working together, but always organizing the confrontation. And France was one of the Spain before us, France,
the
Dutch, Germany, Russia. Yeah. And if we don't overcome this kind of partial thinking, this parochial thinking, we will not succeed.
Most of my fellow students, also within civil engineering or high-rise engineering, none of them really seem to. Well, everyone thinks there's a little bit fishy things going on, but no one is remotely convinced that this is a cover-up or a false flag operation.
Yeah, sure.
And how, maybe a different phrasing, but how is it possible, or how would it be possible to make the truth?
This is a big question. If you don't have the public houses, the publishing houses behind you, you are always in a minority.
So as long as the media are controlled by the...
it goes like that, but if you, for example, perhaps you believe that finally what we are talking about is the right thinking. Then you go to your fellows and you bring about one parcel of one point of what we had discussed, and then they are biting you and saying, well, this is a conspiracy theorist, and you are not able to reconsider all what is or reconstruct all what is he has, I don't know how many years you worked on this beside your normal job. It's not your normal job, but your knowledge could be transported if if the publishing house, a big publishing house said, well, we have to finally to bring about a new European idea on the superpower and how we behave to it, and one of the main question is how we order what's happening on what has happened on 9/11. But if you don't have this, you are always arguing in a very insecure intellectual environment, because you don't know the facts so strongly that you can argue against these doubts. And everybody is laughing. You know, one guy is perhaps going with you, but the others, well, lass uns allein, let us alone with these things, and we don't want to cover this.
So even with all the information, books you've written, there is no proper journalist now who's willing to take the plunge.
No. But it is necessary to write books about this, because books bring all these things together in a broader picture, and you can study them. You can 1, 2, 3 of these books study, or you can go into the internet or look at the truth movement, and then finally find out that this is a reality, and you can campaign for it. But it's very difficult if these people who have the job to tell the story, they don't do it.
No.
And this is very, very difficult to overcome. And they have the time, they have the money of their publishing houses, they could do it, but they don't do it. They are probably perhaps paid to tell not the truth. Or they are sanctioned by reducing the advertising.
Well, it's not the most positive end to this interview, thinkable, but we absolutely know what is going on.
Keep fighting on.
Oh, we do. We are alive and kicking. So thank you very much.
Okay.